We are a peaceful people, struggle as we struggle, and we don't look for trouble, just ask around. But when outside faces from foreign places talk about taking over,
last week I indicated that the NTC would be held in Georgetown during the course of this week, and that we expected that a significant amount of misrepresentation would take place, particularly in the starter groups and cultural groups, because that has been the trend in the past. Today's coverage in both newspapers are proving us correct. They have given an outsized role to the AP as we predicted last week, and has magnified the comments of single individuals beyond all the positives that have come out overwhelmingly from the conference. And so if any reporter or any media house were to be truthful, they would say that this conference is a great success and that it's a model of good governance, that it is an unprecedented level of engagement and consultation by a government with a section of its population that cannot be found anywhere in the world where indigenous people are concerned. And we stand strongly on those comments. Where, in which country would the entire cabinet spend an entire week with the elected indigenous leaders from that country discussing issues of their development with them? That is precisely what's happening in the past week. And the discussions are respectful, they're free flowing, they're positive, and they're focused on problem solving. 100% of the comments in the video, I made a presentation to the NBC, and thereafter I spent 3 hours discussing with the shows various development initiatives. And every single comment, not a single one, I had in those 3 hours maybe about 35,000 people, could be even more, and not a single negative, not a single negative. We are all supportive of the actions in terms of development that the government is pursuing in their villages, and they took pride in recounting their the implementation of the projects that were funded by government and how it's transforming the lives of the their people. This was the overwhelming sentiment there. But that if you read these newspapers, you will think the, the NPC was a hotbed of contradictions and disrespect and controversy. And even in the 3 hour session, the, the APA representative, the chairman of the APA, his son was Mr. Hastings, he sat there in the 3 hours when all the details were speaking. And he never had a settlement to say. So, first of all, we have to publicly call out these newspapers for history what took place at the conference. If there is any disrespect of indigenous people and Amerindian people, it's what they are doing by elevating 8 years' voice to about that of the over 200 leaders who are here, and the voice of a single individual and the ANC MP. Those are the three entities and individuals around which all the stories revolve. Not the positive that came out of all of the devils. And so, what was positive? First of all, let me address what was in today's editorial. The right to self-determination. And this was Star News editorial. Now, this right to self-determination cannot be because the government is engaging with the without fear undermining the right to self-determination, or because you have different views, you're undermining the right to self-determination. The right to self-determination is a legal concept. And where did we give this right to the Amerindian community? In what legal form did we do this? And which government did that? It was the PPP government through the Amerindian Act. Now, if you look at the Act here, it speaks about governance and autonomy. It speaks about self-management. It speaks about the powers of the village council to make rules. And we have indicated there are 17 areas in which they can make rules to govern their village. It enshrined this act passed in 2006 under the PPP government, gave the villages the right to make the village council to make rules in 17 areas. I don't want to read all of the areas. It will take a very long time. But they have that right to make rules and then to police the rules. If you violate these rules, the village council has the right under this act to levy a fine. So here is where, in a legal form for the first time in Guyana, that we gave the villages the right to self-determination and to self-manage their affairs. It's not what the APA is talking about. It's not the editorial in the Star News because someone has a dissenting views that people don't have the right to self-determination. It is in a legal form in the Amerindian Act given by the People's Progressive or passed by our government because we believe in the concept. And so that's the first thing that they had wrong. But they would never acknowledge that it was the People's Progressive Party that gave the village councils the right, the power of self-determination in a legal form to this act. That's the second. That's the first element. The second element of this act was the establishment of the NTC. The NTC had a legal form in this act, and the powers of the NTC were enshrined in the act. It was the People's Progressive Party civic document that did that in 2006. The third area of this act, because I don't want to read all of it, it's a huge document. And I can, if I were to get this opportunity just to present this document, it would take several hours because it came out of consultations, and you will see how far reaching it is. But the third area concerns village lands and mining. Prior to this act, Amerindian communities have no right to refusal of mining on their lands. The Ghana Geology and Mines Commission could give you a prospecting license and a mining license to mine any, including Amerindian land title Amerindian, because Amerindian communities did not have the right of refusal to subsurface of the subsurface level. Under this act, we changed that. The village council had to agree for you to mine on their lands. And it was through an open process. You had to have a general meeting of the village council, and 2/3 of those attending the meeting had to give their consent. So it meant free, prior, informed consent. The villages had to get involved. Secondly, once they gave you approval, they have to pay a tribute to a negotiated tribute, like a revenue stream, to the village itself. So not just the right of refusal to mine on their land, but they have to be paid for that right. They have to share part of the proceeds of coming out from the mining activity. That was done under the People's Progressive Party civic government in 2006 as part of this act. You find out how many other countries have given indigenous people, Amerindian people, or indigenous people that right. You find practical maybe one, but at the time we are passing that, there was only one country in the world that way. Then, in the same act, we dealt with how land would be extended because there was no framework for application for extension of your land. And we, in this act, we define the criteria that you have to meet. You have to meet two criteria basically to make such an application. One, you have to be living in that community for 25 years, a minimum of 25 years. And two, your community had to have over 150 persons. So we define the criteria that land extent. That was never there before. I can go on about the other elements of that, but these were far-reaching changes that we enshrine in a law. You would never hear news or actual news or AP talk about this act and the changes we have made here and how it has transformed many of these communities and the rights of the community. The APA at one time was opposed to Amerindians mining on their own land. they got to their constituents. But I wish Starbucks News would have spoken about this. So in the same editorial, it they berated President Allen for speaking about our achievements and the support of the Amerindian community. And they said that one cannot help but wonder why a government that claims to be investing civilized where feels compelled to constantly remind people at every turn of what it has done or is doing. Surely the record would speak for itself. And that's not so. Because the same Sabbath rules and Nigerians, they will distort that record as they do all the time. So the record will not speak for itself. And if we do not constantly remind people then about the history and what has happened and how far we've come and who is supporting these communities, then the feelings of the past become the heroes of today. Those who tried to seal the 2020 elections today are arguing for a clean voters list. The same people who are trying to steal the election, they'll refashion themselves. The same people who took away the children's grant allowance are saying, oh, 50,000 is not enough. They took away 10,000, but they're saying 50,000 is not enough per year for the children. If we and people repeat that, if you don't remind constantly about what was here, not in the distant future, that people seem to have forgotten, then do not work yourself. If we had a decent media that would have said that, would have reflected the whole picture, maybe we would have done that. We wouldn't need to do that. But we constantly need to remind people. So someone who took away 1,792 CSOs, or 1,772 CSOs who fired and they complain about it in the internet. Oh, the children are using that. And the same person who complained about lack of internet in the internet, his wife was the minister responsible for telecommunications. We left 17.12 million US dollars under our first LTDF fund for internet connectivity. And she utilized the funds in a slipshod manner and diluted the development in the international community. Stop the creation of all these hubs were stopped. The same people who were complaining about ICT hubs now were, you remember when we did move to office, the first we bought 2,000 computers for 10 in each of the 200 hubs that we created in the internet, ICT hubs. They diverted to 2,000 computers. Go back and read in 2015. They did not send them into the internet. The solar panels that we bought to power those hubs, they decided to put them on state houses and some private government buildings in Georgetown. People don't really forget the history, and they don't want us to remind people. The Star News is offended that we are reminding people, surely the record must speak for itself. But that doesn't matter, because the same people who have neglected the Amerindian communities, who took away their computers, took away the solar panels, now complain, oh, and who didn't use the money we had, the 17.2 million, they did use some, about 5 million of it, but they didn't use it for the dedicated purpose. Now we come and complain about this. So surely we need to remind people, including the new leaders at the what we've done. And how do you change that outlook because we're back at it now? We're creating the hubs now. We put a large sum of money in the creation of the hubs. We're now putting in the computers, we have internet, we're building new toilets in there too, but we're also building a $2 billion school. Not one, over $10 billion on schools across the hinterland. $2 billion on one school equivalent. That is more than Apple's entire capital budget for 1 year, for all the sectors. And that is only for what we're spending on one school in the hinterland. Who will say this if we don't say this? But you're offended by this when we say it. Like you're offended about my press conference. I should be hosting these press conferences. But then the other side, look at all the stories coming out from the hostile side, dominating it every day. But where is it was? These two shouts they talk about, consultations with the two shouts, etc. Nobody is saying on two initiatives alone, these two shouts are leaving Georgetown with $5 billion. $4.8 billion on the with LCDS funds and over $200 million just on sport facility development. That's two initiatives alone. I'm not speaking of the presidential grant. I'm not speaking about the $10 billion that we're spending on hinterland roads or over $10 billion on schools in the hinterland. I'm not talking about the $20 billion that we're spending on 4 major hospitals in these regions now. In Israel. I'm not even talking about those. And they're saying, oh, the conference is not meeting its purpose. Now, if you go there, you see every minister discussing with their technical staff, meeting in a free-flowing format, discussing with the two child development. This is a unique thing that's happening here. It doesn't happen in other parts of the world. And this is what we get from it. So the same editorial spoke about the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People mandate that states consult with through their representative institutions to obtain their free, prior, and informed consent before adopting and implementing measures. So everything has been an important part of good governance. I outlined to the two showers APA's involvement in trying to block the issuance of our carbon credits. They wrote the art secretariat. I listed the times they wrote. They made appeals. They even didn't want to comply with the ruling under their appeal. They went to the Inter-American Council on Human Rights to try to block this initiative that would benefit these communities. Not a word about that. You can fact check that. You can show you APA because I listed the dates when they wrote the letters and when they went to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights and their arguments. And all their arguments were to block the the issuance of carbon credit and the 750 million that we required. Did they see the free, prior, informed consent of the 242 billion that are here before they sought the public? Of course not. So on whose behalf were they speaking? But we've already determined that APA is a group of people who's been established to use Amerindian people to raise funds for themselves, the Amerindian cause. So we always have to find negatives, we always have to find something to say to the international community. We're fighting for something, so give us some more money. But the money never gets spent by indigenous people. Right. So we already established it. They didn't follow anything. So on whose behalf were they blocking these funds or trying to block? So we decided we will pursue good governance. I'm glad that who's mentioned ethics. And we put this in they had a two show. So this all came about when I said to the two shows, every two show here, these are the funds for this year. You're going to get $4.8 billion this year from the LCDS fund. And you have any village in here has the right to opt out. You have a right to opt out, not to collect the money. 80 years saying not to collect the money, you have a right. That's your right to do so, opt out of these development funds. Now, last year, we did the same thing because people have to opt in. So, did that happen? Was that an abusive statement? So, the same two show that they give prominence to who's associated with the APA, who was in the meeting. 2 3 hours later, he didn't say a word in that meeting about my comments here. And then I saw someone who was saying, oh, he took Jagdeo to task about this comment. And the two shows saying I would have walked out, I would have walked out if a comment like that is made again. So that's he sat there, dropped it off, or at least it is. And what I was saying basically is what's already in this document. Now, if the staff had read this document carefully, or those who are making comments, they will see that the low carbon development strategy of 2030 has a whole paragraph, and that's what it's called, opting into the RC revenue sharing mechanism, opting in. So you have to opt in, and 3 pages how you can opt in. So all I'm doing is putting to the meeting the right to what we said here in the document, the right to say yes or no to development, benefit, or opportunity. This is in the document. The right of the child to say yes or no to development, benefit, or opportunity. It wasn't to harass this two show or the APA. It is what we have to, by procedure, put to the two show. They have a right to say, I want to be part of it or I don't want to be part of it. And it is described in this document. The LCDS, which is a public document. So they're playing all the loop about Jagdeo saying you can opt in or opt out, and that Jagdeo was being charged there. It's pure nonsense. It's so uninformed that it's shameful. Because if they had only read this document, they would have seen otherwise. That it's enshrined in the document. It's what we have to put to the community. And it's not just the two shouts saying opt-in. If they decide to opt-in, and we're all in, including in the things, because we didn't say I want to opt out. Although the AP that they support is trying to block the ones, but this very same